get moving today by starting standing up. So I hope it's not too much of a shock. So, and in fact, what we're going to do, because I was thinking of a few things for lower backs. Hi, Francis. Hi, Siobhan, by the way. So the first thing we were going to do is in standing, bend the knees a little bit and give the pelvis a wiggle. So I'm standing side on, so you can see my knees are bent, but you might see more pelvis wiggling if I come here. So just this feeling that can we release a little bit around the middle and perhaps feel a little bit more comfortable. And then just from there, when you've had a little bit of a wiggle of the pelvis, settle in standing for a moment. And then we will start to move, just swinging our arms. Very nice. Good. So just noticing how your body feels and being aware of any aches and pains, taking it easy. Who are we gaining now? Oh, Helen, hi, nice to see you. Good. And in a moment, we're going to do a couple of sequences where we move from standing down onto the floor. And there'll be an opportunity that will come into child pose or kneeling and just be able to sort of be a little bit quiet. So from here, let's go to the back of the mat and start by settling our feet down. So starting and standing, Helen, I thought we'd get moving today. So feet hip width apart, hands in prayer pose. Just feeling yourself for a moment and standing. You could close your eyes, feel your footprints on the floor, feel the contact of your palms. See if you can feel the movement of your breath within you. And then open your eyes, let a breath come in as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Drop your shoulders away from your ears and then curling down. Now, if you start to come into a forward bend and your lower back feels a bit tight, bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs. It might be quite nice anyway. And from here, if it's comfortable, you can release your arms down to the floor and into a forward bend, or just do it very sort of gradually, because we're going to be walking our hands forwards into dog. But just do this in a way that doesn't put strain on your lower back if it's feeling a bit tight. So from your forward bend, you can start to walk your hands forwards into dog and just see how this dog pose feels. And it might all feel a little bit stiff and creaky, which is fine. It will ease. So we could be bending one knee, bending the other knee. Big exhalations. Then we'll come down onto hands and knees. And so one of the things I wanted us to think about today is the sort of rounding of our back and the opposite movement, the dipping of our spine. So if we do these movements in cat, our rounding and dipping, and see how they feel. So on hands and knees, let your back round towards the ceiling, let your spine dip down towards the floor. Keep it easy. And let's see, you could just add in a little bit of tail wagging, I think. I was going to do that in a moment, but I'm just thinking, my lower back feels a little bit tight. So try a little bit of wagging your tail from side to side. And then perhaps come back to a little bit more cat. So a little bit more rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor. And then from your rounded cat in a moment, we're going to rock our hips back over our heels and just come either into child pose or kneeling if you prefer. And have a couple of quiet breaths. So this opportunity to settle down in child pose or kneeling. And just feel the weight of your body settling on the ground. So that might be your first point of focus. Closing your eyes, particularly if you're in kneeling, letting the weight of your body settle down. Letting your shoulders soften in kneeling or in child pose. Good. Letting your breath come in, letting your breath leave you. Maybe one more cycle of breath. And then come back onto hands and knees. And just give each leg a lengthen out behind you. So you feel the back of the leg opening out. That's nice. And then what I'd like you to do here is just come back to a little bit more. You can choose yourself, a little bit more cat, a little bit more tail wagging. See how they feel. You might like to add in your little fishes, so the tail wagging movement where we swing our lower legs from side to side, either slowly, adding the head in, or more slowly, or quickly without the head, unless you're someone who likes to wiggle their head around. Okay, and then what we're going to do from here is tuck the toes under on hands and knees, and then start to rock your hips back over your heels, and then start to walk your hands in towards your knees and pick your knees up off the floor. So we come into this little squat position. And so perhaps the first thing you could do is just a little bit of rocking forwards and back. And as you rock back, you could be thinking about your heels dropping down towards the squat, and they may or may not reach the floor, it doesn't matter. What you're thinking about more is the weight of the pelvis dropping backwards. So again, that sort of rounded feeling for the body. But what I particularly then like us to do here is maybe spread your toes out a little bit, particularly the little toe, so that you can then bring your knees back down to the floor and sit back over your heels. And like me, try not to let your heels roll out to the side, and just, yeah, have a breath or two in this diet. If this is just awful, you know, come forwards, ease your weight off your heels. But I think most of you can tolerate this. Well done. A breath or two. Okay, let's come forwards, untuck the toes, drum the feet on the floor. We're going to lengthen each leg out behind us again. We could take it on this time into plank pose. So maybe lengthen each leg out behind you in turn. And then just see how it feels to take this on into plank pose. So when you've got one leg lengthened back, keep it there, add the other leg in, have a few breaths in your plank. So your gaze is down somewhere, perhaps just forward of your fingertips. You're feeling your abdominals kicking in. You're trying your best to breathe. Good. And then you're coming back down. Let your knees come down. Keep your toes tucked under. And once more, walk your hands into your knees. Pick your knees up off the floor. Now this time we're going to roll up into standing. So from this little sort of mini squat, we can start to send our heels down and our sit bones up. So sorry, into a forward bend first. And then we roll up into standing, touching the backs of the hands together. So let a breath come in as you exhale. Roll up. If you feel that your back needs support, walk your hands up the front of your thighs. That's it, all the way up into standing. Breathe in and then exhale, take your arms out in a big circle in front of you. And we're going to go back down to the floor again and do a few more slightly different things there. So just gather yourselves at the back of your mat. Let a breath come in as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears, and then as you exhale, rolling down into your forward bend again. Again, pause halfway if you like, with your elbows on your thighs and your knees bent. Otherwise, release all the way down into your forward bend. Let your head go, let your arms go. Big breath or two. Feel your heels rooting into the ground. And then again, you can walk forwards into dog pose. And see how this second dog pose feels. And have a few breaths in your dog, bending one knee, bending the other knee. Exhaling, letting the shoulders undo as much as possible. And let me see, from dog pose, now you could come down onto hands and knees, or you could step directly into a lunge, because that's where we're going to be going to from dog pose. So up to you, either from hands and knees, or straight from dog, 1 foot forwards into a lunge. So we're just thinking a little bit more now about opening out through the front of the body. Your back toes can be tucked under, carry on working those feet, or they can be flat. Letting your shoulders soften, giving the weight of your pelvis down to the ground. I'm keeping fiddling around with my toes. Just have another 2 or 3 breaths in this side of lunge. And then what we'll do from lunge is we'll sort of do that easing back, which I'm quite keen on at the moment. So from your lunge, we untuck the back toe, and then we keep our chest close to our thigh. We do this sort of rocking back movement. We come onto the heel maybe of the front foot. We look back behind us. And then let's swap sides of lunge on hands and knees, and then we'll have a lengthen out and dog after the next side of lunge. So come and swap to the other side of lunge from hands and knees. See how this feels, back toes tucked under or flat. Just having a few breaths in your lunge. And of course, if you feel that it's better to sort of ease in and out of lunge for you a bit, you could do. So you could sort of rock back into that easing out place and then forwards into lunge. I didn't say that on the other side, but you're always welcome to do that. Depends how it feels. Sorry, I think I'm about to sneeze. So a couple more breaths in lunge, or sort of easing forwards and back if you prefer. Toes tucked under or flat. And then we'll have a breath or two easing back out of lunge, and then a little bit of a lengthen out in dog before revisiting child pose or kneeling. So we can ease back from lunge, again looking back behind us, feeling that rounding of the lower back, sort of long curve of the spine. And then you can either go into dog from hands and knees, or you can rock forwards again into your lunge, plant your hands down, exhale, step your front foot back into dog pose. And if it feels a bit long, then adjust your feet and yeah, see how dog pose feels. I'm just going to grab a tissue. Lovely, very nice dog poses. So I'm just going to have it. Yeah, beautiful. Look at you in dog. So you can spend as long as you like. You can stay as long as you like in dog. From here, we're going to have a few quiet breaths, either in child or kneeling, or even lying on your belly, if that's a better option for you. So when you come out of dog into child or kneeling, just settling again. So feeling the weight of your body settled on the floor, letting your shoulders soften, gathering your awareness into your breathing. So feeling the movement of your breath in your body. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. Maybe one more cycle of breath here. And then if you're in kneeling, you might want to, well, you're going to lengthen your arms forward. So you might want to just bring your hands onto the floor and come into child pose, because we're going to, from child pose, lengthen our arms forward. So our elbows come off the floor and then come up onto hands and knees. So we're in a long hands and knees position. Yeah, so your hands are further forwards than your shoulders. And what I'd say here is just then try a little bit of rocking forwards, but you're not necessarily going all the way into face up dog. So when I was doing this yesterday, I was just, thinking, okay, my lower back needs a bit more lengthening out. And we're going to do a bit of our sort of cat into face up dog in a moment. So this doesn't have to be all the way. See how the wrists feel, how does the back feel? And you might find, you might try a little bit of going all the way towards face up dog and just seeing how that feels. And then we can start to maybe add in our face up dog by tucking our toes under, not our cat, sorry, tucking our toes under, rounding our back up to the ceiling, rocking our hips back over our heels, and then traveling forwards to face up dog in this way where we round our back to the ceiling. We look back towards our feet. We stay very rounded for as long as we possibly can, and then we open up and face up dog. So we could repeat that maybe 3 times. Do take a rest if your wrists need a break. So rounding up, rocking back, looking back towards your feet as you then travel forwards on an out breath. Really just finding that length in your lower back. Ending up in your face up dog. So perhaps one more time, if those wrists are okay. Going back, and there's that feeling that as we travel forwards, we're looking back. So we feel our pelvis coming forwards, and then eventually we let our pelvis hang, our shoulders come down. Very nice. Breath or two here if you can. It's not the easiest place to stay in and breathe. And then once more, you're going to rock back, tuck your toes under, but this time we're going to walk our hands into our knees. And just come back here to maybe a little bit of rocking on in this sort of squat position where we're letting our heels drop back towards the floor. That's nice. And then what we'll do from here again is spread little toes out to the side and see how it feels to come down onto our knees. So again, coming back into revisiting that little foot stretch for a second time, because we're going to be coming up into standing and doing some standing balances. So good to get our feet a little awake. Dropping the shoulders down, smiling. Oh, nice to see blue, Sarah. So good. I have come forwards to untuck your toes. So I have Casper snoring on the back of the sofa. I'll just so that's it. Give the feet a little tap, lengthen each leg out behind you. Once you've lengthened each leg out behind you, tuck both lots of toes under with your knees on the floor and come back by walking your hands into your knees. Come back into that little sort of squat position. And from here, we'll make our way into a forward bend. So sending the heels down, the sit bones up, feeling the weight in the heels, letting the head go, letting the arms go, touching the backs of the hands together as you exhale. Rolling up into standing, trailing your arms up the front of your body, all the way up, letting a breath come in and then exhaling. Good, taking your arms out by your sides. And then just having a little bit of a shake out. Good, up in standing. So what we're going to do is perhaps a couple of maybe simpler standing balances and then come back to the floor and then back and sort of develop them a little bit more. So very simply to start with, we're going to be doing this coming up onto the balls of our feet, which we've prepared ourselves nicely for with our foot stretches. So you can do this a few times. How does it feel? Yeah, probably much better than me. Coming forwards, coming back down. And then eventually what we'll do is we'll come up and we'll just let the arms float up. We'll do a very sort of simple version of this. Let the arms float up, keep the shoulders heavy. Have a few breaths here. Just see how it feels to feel long and tall. This feeling of balancing up on the balls of the feet. Very nice. Yes, and don't worry if you lose your balance, that's fine. And then whenever you want to, you can come back down in a controlled way, ideally. Give your feet a little bit of shake out. So you can even do this one where you come onto sort of the tops of each foot. Sometimes that's quite good. Stretch the feet the other way. And then we're going to do that same balance again, but this time we're adding a mudra. So when you've taken your arms up, you're then going to touch your thumb onto one finger. And then we'll take the arms out to the side and we'll still touch the thumb and the finger. Doesn't matter which finger you touch, but I wouldn't touch the same finger in each hand. Oh, I'd find it too complicated otherwise. So let's come up into the balance again and then add the mudra in once our arms are up. So shifting the weight forwards onto the balls of your feet. Let a breath come in as the next breath leaves you. Take your arms up. And just settle yourself there, letting your shoulders soften. And then touch your thumb onto the finger you'd like to touch. Can be any finger. Can be the pad of the finger or the nail of the finger. And have another breath or two with the arms up there. And then from there, keeping that contact of thumb and finger, we can bring our arms wide to shoulder height and see how that feels. That's good. Keep the elbows soft. Maybe turn the palms upwards. Lovely. And then, yes, from there, you can again slowly control your descent. Bring your arms down as you bring your heels down. Very nice. And then release your arms and your feet. So we're going to do one more little, right, it's going to be a little sequence of balances where we slide the foot back behind us, then we bring the foot into tree pose, and then we cross our legs into this eagle, sort of mini eagle. So what I'd like you to do is choose which foot you're going to stand on, I think would be quite good. So settle both feet down. Close your eyes. And just be in the standing for a moment. You can let your weight sway a little bit from side to side. Just give yourself a little bit of time to drop your attention, drop your awareness down into your feet and your legs. So sort of let your mind quieten down. And from here, just choose, it really doesn't matter which, just choose a foot to stand on. And then you're going to open your eyes. And I think it might be quite nice to start with the hands in prayer pose, and we just then bring the arms out of the way. So the hands are in prayer pose at the chest. We shift our weight onto the foot we're going to stand on, and then we're going to slide the other foot back behind us and then flip onto the top of the toes. And you maybe see what it's like to straighten your back knee a bit more. That sometimes makes my foot cramps, so just be aware of that. Good. And then let that back foot slide in. Let the knee turn out a little bit. So your foot's coming onto your ankle. You might have a few toes on the floor if you like, or they might be off the floor completely. Good. So a little mini tree pose for a breath or two. See how that feels. Good. And then bring your toes onto the floor if they're not there already, and bend your standing knee. So we're doing that funny eagle balance and sort of little version of it where we then cross our top leg over the bent bottom leg. And I always find my knees are happier here if I look down a bit more rather than forwards. But try to keep the shoulders over the hips. So I look down, but I'm not leaning forwards. Good. And a breath or two here. Very well done. Good. So we've actually been standing, yes, come down. We've actually been standing on one foot for a little while. So when we do these sequences, you know, it gives us something to focus on. We stay there a bit longer. Okay, come back to standing for a moment, closing your eyes, just feeling yourself in standing, noticing how the two legs feel. So the leg we just stood on might feel a bit more achy. And then we'll shift the weight onto the other leg. Open your eyes. You can bring your hands into prayer pose at your breastbone. And then slide the toes back behind you of the foot you just stood on. Flip onto the top of the toes. That's nice. You can straighten that back knee a little bit if you like. Make sure your foot doesn't cramp. And then slide that foot in towards you. And let the knee turn out to the side. So we're just doing a mini tree pose now. Plan is we'll come into a more developed tree pose in a little bit. So a few breaths in your mini tree pose. Your foot can be entirely off the floor or not, as you like. Good. That's fine if we have a little wobble. And from here, we're going to bring toes onto the floor. We're going to let the standing knee bend, at which point that's when you might like to bring your gaze down a little bit more and cross the top leg over. You crossed your top knee over. Could have your big toe on the floor still. Could be on the floor. Could wrap your foot around the back of your ankle if you like. Another breath or two. And try and keep the shoulders back over your hips rather than leaning forwards. So you look down, but you're not leaning forwards. Okay, good. Come out. Have a little shake out. So what we're going to do now is come down onto the floor and do a couple of things in sitting, and then we're going to come back up into standing and come back to a couple of those balances. So what I'd like you to do is, facing the long edge of your mat, is come down through a forward bend and a squat into cobbler pose. And you can spend as long as you like in either of them. So if you did want something under your heels in your squat, this would be a good time to do it. So you can roll forwards in your forward bend. It might be quite nice to have a few breaths in your forward bend, bending your knees as much as you like. You could bend your knees and bring your chest close to your thighs, or you could even wrap your arms around the back of your legs. Just really letting your back lengthen out in your forward bend. And then from your forward bend, you'll be bending your knees more so that they come forwards, and you let your bottom come down into your squat. And if you want something under your heels, by all means, put something there. If you're staying in your squat, you can bring your knees a bit wider apart and fold your sort of body in between your knees. So again, with that sit, we can let the pelvis drop down. And if the bottom drops all the way onto the floor, that's fine, because from our squat, we are going to be sitting down into cobbler pose. And maybe leaning back onto the hands. So I thought we would, yes, sort of I was experimenting with doing things in class in a different order yesterday, and it was quite funny. Anyway, we'll come to some of that later on. So here, we're going to come on into our pinwheel in a moment. So maybe we'll stay a bit longer in cobbler in between sides. So bring one knee over on top of the other knee and slide this leg back. And then a little bit of circling and settling. Nice to see Atticus there, Rosie. Nice to see everyone's animals wandering around. So a little bit of circling, and from here, so from pinwheel, we will fold over the knee that's going out to the side, and we'll just have a few breaths. So this opportunity to come to our breathing and just to sort of settle and quieten. Feel the breath flowing in, feel the breath flowing out. So pinwheel's it's pinwheel forward bend is a bit like child pose. We can be sort of quiet and settled here. Or just see if we can be quiet and settled here for another couple of breaths. Okay, and then have another breath or two if you like. But you can walk your hands in towards you. And then I'm sort of reminded, I don't know, the other day of this, taking the back leg and this way of starting to draw a bit of a circle with this back leg, which will eventually take us to cow legs. So there are different ways to cow legs. And if any of you come to Friday class, you'll realise the Friday people have I'm going to do this with them too. There's going to be a mini insurrection because they like to go in a different way. So the back leg is coming across, and then as we start to cross the other leg, so from here, our knee is forwards and our foot back, but then as our leg crosses our other leg, the foot comes further that way. Yeah. So eventually, so a couple more times, just sort of drawing this circle, and then eventually I'd like you to end up in cow legs. It might be that actually where you end up is here, and that's fine. Might be that that leg can swing over. At this point, we want to try and let the sit bones come back down onto the ground. And it might be, so Maria, I know on one side you lengthen your bottom leg out. So this is another option to lengthen the bottom leg out. But let's just, on a cold December morning, see how our cow legs is. And can we have a little wiggle here? A little wiggle, and then a little turn towards the top leg. Yeah, so the leg which is on top. It always gets a bit confusing, this one. Good, well done, Maria, you're turning the right way. Very nice, yes. So turning towards your top leg, Try to keep your spine long and tall. Well done. Yes, I think everyone's standing tall, so top legs as far as I can see. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Big exhalations here. And then we'll come back to the center, a little bit of a wiggle, and then lean back onto your arms and gently ease your legs out. Maybe bounce your knees. Yeah, roll your legs, bounce your knees. Good. Okay, let's come back into cobbler pose, and then let's maybe just stay in cobbler pose a little bit longer. So we could do a little bit of rocking in cobbler pose from side to side. That's nice. And then we could also do a little bit of the sort of side bendy one where we lean onto one hand and then we reach up and over with the other arm. So in this one, we're trying to sort of leave the legs and pelvis heavy. And the sort of side to side movement comes through the sides of the body. And it may be that you prefer one to the other. You might prefer the rocking to the side lengthening or vice versa. Okay, let's move on into side 2 of pinwheel. So let your top and come over and your leg slide back. Good. And a little bit of circling here. And then again, we can fold forwards over this knee that's going out to the side and just have a few quiet breaths there. So folding the weight of our body over the leg and taking this opportunity to sort of focus in that quiet way on feeling the weight of our body on the ground, feeling the movement of the breath within us. That sense of just stopping, which is maybe what we don't do enough of in our daily lives, of just stopping and feeling our breath and being, letting ourselves soften and settle. So maybe 2 more cycles of breath here. The breath in, the breath out. And then walking our hands in towards us. I was just then thinking about how a cat's life, and a dog's life is largely the whole just resting and being. So from here, we're going to lean onto the arm, and this knee goes out to the side. And yes, exactly, this movement of swinging the back leg. And just see what it's like to bring that back leg. We're thinking about starting to cross over the knee. It might be quite different one side to the other, and it's why it's very, very nice, Marie. It's why it's helpful to repeat these movements sometimes. So eventually, I'm afraid you need to stay in your cow leg. So if like me, your weight is all over onto the sort of side of the bottom leg, see what happens when you try and let the top sit bone come onto the floor. That's it. A little bit of a wiggle is really good here. Might be that the top leg has to come back over onto the other side. Exactly, Marie, it might be the bottom leg needs to lengthen out. And see, so lots of you look a bit more comfortable on this side. Have a bit of a wiggle, and then we'll turn again towards the top leg, which everyone managed very well on the other side. So why it's confusing, as we know, is because we're crossing over, we've crossed our midline, and our brain starts to get, the mind does at least, get very confused. Letting the shoulders drop, feeling the weight of the pelvis is heavy on the floor. Good. Very nice. You can have another breath or two. Sometimes after you've twisted, it's nice to come back to the center in cow legs and just have another wiggle, see how it feels. From here, you can lean back, you can uncross your legs. We're going to be moving back into standing to revisit a couple of standing balances. We'll go through dog pose. I was thinking it was quite nice to do your one leg standing dogs. So you could really then lengthen your legs out in dog pose by lifting one leg up, if you like. So it'll be dog pose, forward bend, standing, one leg dogs. Oh, might feel really nice. But obviously, if it's not great for your shoulders today, you don't have to do that. But there's that lovely feeling when you in one leg dog, when you're sort of reaching up into your heel or letting the heel fall back behind you, and you've got that lovely sense of length through the whole of your body. It might even feel pleasurable, feel joyful. So a little bit on each side. And then obviously making your way, there's no rush, making your way through the forward bend and up into standing. Good. Just take your time to arrive in standing. Lovely one-leg dogs there, Sally. I'm just coming to kneel because I'm going to show you we're going to do tree pose, and I had a little sequence of sort of arm sequence, which you can, so in its most simple form, from prayer pose, you can open your hands into the lotus flower mudra, where the thumb and the index finger still touch. And don't make it really stretchy, I think, in the balance. Sometimes we use this to stretch the hands. This is more as a sort of image of a flower. So that's really simple. You could keep your hands there. You can also go a bit further. You can take your arms up, and then we can touch the hands over the head in prayer pose, come back down, and finish back at the heart with the hands in the lotus flower. So it just really depends whether you know, how you're feeling, whether you want to take your arms and back up and back down again. Yeah, there's just a couple of options depending how you're feeling today. So in standing, let's all stand on the right foot first, I think. I think I should tell you which foot, but we'll do that now. So we're going to be shifting our weight onto the right foot, and we're coming into tree pose, so you can, however you want to, bring your foot on a bit dark, I don't know why. So it could be your foot on your ankle, it could be your heel just over your knee, or it could be bringing your foot right up onto your thigh. So that feeling that we organise ourselves below the waist, and then we bring our hands into prayer pose. And we just settle. And then with the hands at the breastbone, we can see how it feels to open the three middle fingers and the palms into the lotus flower mudra. So this rather beautiful image of flowering at our heart. We can stay there if we like, but also it's very nice to let our arms grow up in tree pose if we're feeling steady. So this is maybe where we feel a bit more tree-like. Letting the shoulders drop. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then with your arms up, see how it feels to keep your shoulders down, but to touch your palms over your head. So prayer pose over your head. Good. And then you bring your hands down in front of you, down your midline, back to your heart. And there you can open your hands into the lotus flower mudra once more. Lovely, really beautiful. Good. And yes, come down. Maybe you've had enough. I'm just going to move around and see if maybe the light will click back on again. Maybe not. Okay, give your legs a little shake out. Let's try side two. So maybe just take a moment in standing, maybe a moment closing your eyes, letting your arms hang, letting your shoulders drop. Seeing again how the two legs feel. The one we just stood on is maybe a little bit more achy. And then opening your eyes, we'll bring our weight onto our left foot. The right foot comes ankle, or just over the knee, or up, got my light back again, up onto the top of the thigh. So that sense that we're organising ourselves below the waist, and then we're bringing our hands to our heart into prayer pose, Anjali Mudra. And then we can open those 3 middle fingers and the palms into the lotus flower mudra. So we've still got the thumb and the little finger in contact with their pair. So again, this lovely image of flowering at our heart. And you can stay here, or if you feel steady and you want to let your arms grow up, you can do so. So the arms grow up, but the shoulders stay heavy. The shoulders drop down. We can then see how is it to touch the hands in Anjali Mudra prayer pose over our head, but keeping the shoulders soft, which I find quite challenging. And then we move the hands down our midline, back to the heart. And we can open the fingers again into the lotus flower. Very lovely, everyone. Let's do, come down. Oh, have a little bit of a shake out. So the other pose we're going to revisit, the other balance, is our eagle balance, but we're going to do our arms. I'm going to do our arms first. So settle down, feet a little distance apart, hands back in prayer pose. We're going to be swinging our arms out to the side, so just make sure you've got space for that. So let a breath come in as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Drop the shoulders away from the ears and then swing your arms, crossing them in front of your body. And then you're going to give yourself a hug with your right arm on top. So this is why I was being bossy about lefts and rights, just so you don't have to think at this point. And then from here, come on into your eagle arms. Drop the shoulders down away from the ears. So what we're going to do from here is bend the knees. If the gaze comes down a little bit, and we're going to be standing on the right foot first, so crossing the left leg over. Looking down a little bit more, but trying not to lean forwards. And remember, you could have your big toe on the floor, you could wrap your foot around the back of your ankle, or you could just let that top foot hang. Have a few breaths here. Keep really feeling the movement of the breath within you. Very beautiful, everyone. It's so lovely. Very nice. Yes, come down. Have a shake out. So there's always that feeling, because we're balancing with a bent knee, it's a bit more muscular effort. We're less supported by our bones. Come back, hands in prayer pose. Letting a breath come in. Exhaling, taking the arms down and then up. Breathing in, exhaling, swinging the arms, crossing them in front of ourselves. And then again, we're going to give ourselves a hug, this time with the left arm on top. Drop the shoulders down away from the ears. And then come on into your eagle arms. So dropping the shoulders down, if it's possible to send the elbows a little way away from your chest, you can do. And then we'll bend the knees a bit, letting your gaze come down. When I say down, you're not looking down at your feet, you're just maybe looking down at the floor rather than forwards at the wall. And then we're going to stand on the left foot, so crossing the right leg over. And remember, you've got all those options. If you feel a bit unsteady, you could have your big toe touching the floor. You could wrap your foot around the back of your shin. And try to really feel that your shoulders are over your hips and you're sort of sitting down a little bit through your hips. And you're feeling the movement of your breath. Beautiful, really nice, well done. Okay, come down, let's shake out, and then let's just finish with our loose swinging twist. Now, Sarah, you might want to have a little lie down now before you finish. Or you might want to do, yeah, I think that might be quite good for you because you've got to leave early. We are all going to be shortly having a lie down, but I've got one more sort of lively thing for us to do, not in standing. Okay. So we're going to come down to the ground through a forward bend and a squat, but towards the front of your mat. So you can position yourselves at the front of your mats. You can let a breath come in as you exhale. You can roll down into one last forward bend. And so don't be in a hurry to go on into your squat. Enjoy your forward bend. If bending your knees makes it more enjoyable, then bend your knees. I'm bending my knees a lot, and then it's quite nice if you bend your knees a lot and your chest rests on your thighs to bring your arms around the back of your legs and catch your wrist. These are just ideas, you don't have to do these. And then from your forward bend, after another breath or two, you're going to start to bend your knees forwards into a squat. And again, if you want to stay in your squat, you can slide something under your heels. But again, we're actually going to be sitting down from our squat. So you could bring your hands beside you, not into cobbler pose this time, into this one. Yes, so we're going to be doing a bit of our rolling back. And this is what I was playing around with yesterday, thinking, we could do this in the middle of the class. But then I lay down and didn't want to get up again and thought maybe that wasn't such a good idea. So it's more towards the end. So from here, we're thinking about this curve through our back, sliding the hands from the feet up to the knees and leaning back a bit. Okay. So we're just starting. We're starting where it's not such hard work, where we're really just thinking about the back rounding out. So all the time here, we're looking down at the belly. Moving forwards and back, trying to find that nice sort of curve through our spine. Seeing how the lower back feels, because we actually want the lower back here to round out. And then this one does then obviously become this balance, where from here we're going to let the feet come up. We're going to keep the knees bent to start with. Let ourselves roll back. See if we can balance on the middle of our back and come up again. So it's that, yeah, we're rolling back a little bit. Yes, I would keep the knees straight. No, keep the knees bent, sorry, a few times. Just go down and up again. Keep it quite easy and keep your focus on that feeling of, can I balance on the middle of my back? Which I know isn't easy. Now, the challenge I was doing, so normally we do this 3 times, and 3 times is fine. I've been trying to do this one 6 times, and I think we're getting in early for the New Year's resolution. So it really depends. You don't have to do 6 times, but if you want to try. So it would be rolling back, and then how does it feel to lengthen our legs out? And then come back up again. So I'll leave it up to you whether you want to do the 6 times challenge. But yes, I think all of us might, often it's around Christmas, isn't it, sort of overeating, but I think perhaps we've had a year of being stuck at home overeating. So wanting to a bit fitter, okay. So I think that's 3 times. You're very justified now to lie down, but if you want to try another 3 times, you could do. It's really not the easiest pose to breathe in. Or speaking. Well done. Okay, there's there's one last one. If you're doing 6 with me, you can try one more and then definitely lie down after this one. And then yes, collapse down onto the floor. So then, yes, if like me, I think I was doing this on Sunday, and then sort of I was out with the kids thinking, why am I feeling my abdominals? So if you have that moment later today, you'll know why. So settle down onto your backs. We're going to do a few little movements here and then a bit of breathing. So do put on warmer things if you like. And the first thing you're going to do is, once you've settled down, a bit of letting your head ease from side to side. That's it. So settling the weight of your body onto the floor and very sort of lazily, languidly let your head roll to the right and to the left. That's it. So really feeling the heavy weight of the head on the floor. And also, as you let your head roll from side to side, you might sort of notice how the back of the head can feel a bit bumpy and lumpy. Not always sort of smooth and even. And from rolling your head, find a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the floor. And if you like, you might find you want to pick up your head in your hands and gently lengthen out the back of your neck. So again, all these things that can just make us feel a bit more comfy. And if your legs are long, now bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. That's it. So feel the contact of your footprints on the floor. Feel the contact of the back of your pelvis on the floor. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So that often this movement we do at the beginning of class, we're coming to much later on. Looks very nice, good. So keep it comfortable, keep it easy. If it feels easy to take your knees a long way, then by all means you can do that. And then pause in the center. And a couple of times you're going to move up through bridge pose, because I always think bridge pose feels really nice after the boat pose we were doing. So that feeling of opening out through the front of the body. So a couple of times rolling up into bridge pose. Letting the front of the body open, that's nice. Marie, you look like your feet could be slightly wider apart. Or just, yes. Is that better? You look steadier. Yeah, good. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Beautiful. That looks really nice. So make this the last bridge pose that you're doing. And then, as a couple of you are already doing, you can hug your knees into your chest. There's that very nice feeling. We fold our knees into our chest. We can hold around the knees with the hands. We can just breathe quietly, or we can rock from side to side. And from here, you could also do a little bit of happy baby. So where you take the soles of your feet towards the ceiling and your knees are bent. That's it. And you can be rocking from side to side in that. Or you can just be sort of quietly breathing. Yes, and you can also, Sally, take your legs up, straighter legs and shake them out. So and a bit of both, a bit of happy baby, a bit of lengthening the legs out. And then we're going to, from here, yes, very nice. Do as much rolling and rocking around as you like. And then from here, we're going to settle down. And we're going to work with just three different, I suppose, three different sounds. It's going to be like the sighing breath, the blowing breath, the hissing breath. So at this point, I would say put on a blanket and just make sure you really are warm enough so you can fully enjoy focusing on your breathing. So we've been doing a lot of buzzing breath in recent weeks, and then I started thinking about what other sounds are nice, and I was reminded of this sequence. So when you're settled down, what we'll do is, let's see, we'll do 3 or 4 big sighing breaths. So you breathe in through your nostrils and you exhale with a big sigh through your mouth. So the breath comes in through the nostrils. The breath leaves through the mouth. And all of these breaths we're doing now are like this, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. So a couple more times. So one last time, let a breath come in. Let the breath leave you. And then just let your breathing settle. So come back to sort of settling with your natural breath, as we did in child pose and pinwheel in the class, just coming back to feeling the movement of your breath in your body, feeling the weight of your body on the ground. Just being. And the next breath we're going to do is where we blow a long breath out through our mouth. So it's a sort of longer breath, a bit like you're blowing on soup to cool it down. Yeah, that sort of breath. So again, breathing in through your nostrils. We'll do this twice more. So breathing in through the nostrils and then this long blowing breath out through the mouth, sort of pursed up lips. And one last time, breathing in through the nostrils and breathing out your long blowing breath. And then again, coming back to settling with your natural breath, with just feeling your breath moving through you rather than doing anything to your breath. Letting your body settle. You're noticing where you feel your breath moving in you, how the breath feels. And these breaths, will come on to one more where we are actively lengthening out our out breath. They do help us to get rid of some of that, whatever it is inside of us that we need to get rid of. You know, whether it's just a sort of, tension or sluggishness or, whatever it is. So the last breath we're going to do is a hissing breath. So a bit like a very old-fashioned, a pressure cooker. That's the sort of sound. It's hissing. So again, we'll breathe in through the nose and then 3 long hissing breaths out through the mouth when you're ready. So let a breath come in. letting the breath come in. And so as we exhale with this hiss, we're really trying to let the whole of the breath leave us. And one last time, letting your breath come in and then your long hissing breath on your exhalation. And then just back finally to letting your body settle, letting your breath move through you. Just for another minute or so until I ring the bowl 3 times. So thank you, everyone. Just looking at you, I'm looking away, but it's just very nice to see you all on the properly on the big screen. I'm going to turn off the recording.